This is a small tutorial for how to use the OpenStack dashboard. Right now we have our OpenStack environment running at openstacknd.us/horizon. If you have a username and password, you can just enter it here and click on sign in. Depending on if you have admin rights, you will first be sent to the project tab or to the admin tab. Right now we have admin rights, so we are sent to the admin tab on the overview section. Here you will see basically an overview of your usage of all your different resources across your different projects. The next section is called instances. Here you will get a summary of all your VMs across all your different projects. You also get some extra information as on which host is each VM running, and also you can choose each VM and terminate them manually or just terminate them all. The next section is volumes. On this section you can delete your created volumes, but you can also see on which host is each volume being created. You can also create volume types that are basically labels, so you can give a volume while you create them. The next section is flavors. Flavors are basically specifications for all your VMs. Here you can set up basically how many CPUs, how much RAM, how much disk, either ephemeral or root you want to give to each virtual machine. You can also set up the size for a swap disk. Usually OpenStack comes with some predefined flavors, but here you can create more or edit them. On images, you can see all the images, both snapshots and base images that you can use for deploying instances. You can create images, we're going to discuss that later, but you can also edit images that you own, make them public if you want other people to have access to them, and also delete them. The next section is projects. Projects are also known in OpenStack as tenants, which are just a container for a group of users. From this section you can modify existing projects or create more. You can also edit users, meaning that you can remove or add users or change the roles within this project. You can also have the option of changing their name, the name of the project and the description, and even the quotas, meaning how much resources are allocated for this project. On the users section, as you guessed it, you can manage the users. You can create or delete users based on your privileges, and you can also change some users' characteristics such as their username, email, their password, and even their primary project. The primary project will define to which project they're gonna get assigned by default once they log into dashboard. The next section is an important one. This is networks. On networks you can create networks and assign them different characteristics. You can define networks basically on their admin state. You can define them as shared, meaning that they can be public or used by other users and projects. And you can also define if you want your network to be external or internal, meaning an internal network is going to be only private, and an external network would have access to the network where the physical hardware is running on. The next section is very related to networks. This is called routers. Here you can delete routers but not create them. You will get an overview if you click on a router, but you won't be able to manage the router. This is because each router is based on the different project that they are part of, so routers are only managed from the router section on the project tab. System info will give you some basic information of the system where OpenStack is running on. Mainly here you will see the IP of the different hosts and if different services are enabled or disabled. You can also go to the projects tab. Here you will be able to manage all your resources and VMs on a given project. Right now my current project is demo, but if you're part of multiple projects you can click here and change to any other project. You will always first see the overview section where you will get an overview of your usage and quota for all the resources on your given project. The next section is instances. Here you can create, launch VMs, and destroy running VMs. For example, this is going to be a demo of how easy it is to launch a VM. Just click on launch instances. Source, you can either launch from a previous snapshot or from an image. Right now we're just going to use an image. We have different kinds of images. Hadoop, for Hadoop cluster, Zero, there is a basic cloud image, and Ubuntu, we're just going to go with zeros because it's simple. We give it a name. We choose a flavor. We're just going to make a sample one, so it's going to be a small one. Security. Keepers, we right now don't have any keepers. It's going to be explained later. Network, we always need a network, so we're going to choose the demo network. Volume options, we don't have any volumes allocated, so we're not going to attach any volume. Post creation, here you can create scripts that are going to get run after the VM starts. Now we wait a little bit, and you can see now that this VM is running. We can access it to get more information, so we can see the features of the VM, network, security groups. We can also see the log tab. Here you will get the boot log, where you can find if there has been errors with the boot process, and actually the console, where you can go and interact with the VM. On volumes, you can allocate a volume storage, meaning you can create basically hard drives that can get attached to VMs. So right now we have one, for example, of 1 gigabyte. We can create another one with any size as long as it's underneath our quota, 5 gigabytes, and it's get allocated very easily. Images and snapshots allow us to get an overview of all the different images, not only from our project, but also images that have been made public from other projects. To show you how simple it is to create an image, we're going to upload an Ubuntu image. This is going to be Ubuntu 13.04. So we have the link for where we can download the ISO. So we click here, choose the name, set location. We can also upload images from our computers. Choose a format. This image comes on there you go. This is the right format. Minimum disk and minimum RAM are optional, so we're not gonna set them right now. And we're gonna also make it public, so any other project can use it. This is gonna then get queued so it can be downloaded from the server. And once it's ready, it's gonna be available for everyone. On access and security, you're gonna get a place where you can manage your security groups, key pairs, floating IPs, and API access points. So your security groups are basically going to be rules that define which ports are accessible for each VM. You can edit them, add or remove rules. For example, in this case, our default is we're allowing all TCP ports and all ICMP ports, but none of the UDP ports. On keepers, you can create or import SSH keys. You can use these SSH keys to provide security for your VMs. The next section is Elastic Hadoop. Here you can deploy and manage your Hadoop clusters, but this is going to be discussed in a separate video. The next section is networks. On networks, you can create your private networks for your own project. Here you won't have as many features as you have on the admin section for networks, but you're allowed to create networks. Not only that, you're also allowed to create subnets within your private network. So here you can create subnets, or you can also edit them. An important feature here is DNS name servers, which if you enable DHCP will allow your VMs running on a private network to have access to the internet. On the ports section, you will see all the devices that are connected to your network. Most of them are going to be VMs, or can also be DHCP servers and network router interfaces. The next section is routers. Routers are basically devices that will connect two private networks. You can use this to give access from one private network to another one, or in case you have a network that is defined as external and another one to be defined as internal, you can create a gateway, meaning that the VMs that live on the internal network will have access to the external network. This is required for flowing IPs and DHCP and internet access. And this is a new feature in the Grizzly release, that is the network topology. Here you will see a visual representation of all the network and elements in the network. You will see networks like external network, internal networks, routers that connect networks, and all the VMs that are running within each network. This is a very useful tool. You can also use this panel to launch instances, create networks, and create routers. The last section is object store. This will correspond to the object storage service, also known as Swift, but we right now don't have that enabled.